created Islam in a perfect way. Islam provides such a perfect aspect of human matter. Al-Adl and Al-Ihsan serve as the foundation of Islamic philosophy, which offers a full way of living. As a result, this study makes an effort to examine the philosophical concerns behind Islamic economics and its extensive use in the global economic at large. The discussion on the topics of Islamic economic philosophy is simply descriptive. The study's conclusions showed that Al-Adl and Al-Ihsan provide a solid conceptual framework for socio-economic progress in Islam. The investigation came to the further conclusion that Al-Adl and Al-Ihsan will be established while economic life is guided by not just material considerations but also by Allah's approval and the desire for a peaceful afterlife. Al-Adl specifically means justice, while Al-Ihsan specifically means goodness. According to the Holy Quran, Al-Adl, which is justice, and Ihsan, rightness, are commands from God, which is in Quran, Surah An-Nahl, verse number 90. Al-Adl while Al-Ihsan consequently stands for an equilibrium of social justice as a group. Islam desires to establish an entire and sustainable way of life for individuals through justice and truth and goodness in all virtues of the fundamental set of social and financial institutions, which should be accomplished through the exact specifications of Allah. Islamic economic philosophy is just one part of daily human life among whole part of activities. This study examines the development of Islamic economic thought and the way it affects today's contemporary economic activity. The research made recommendations regarding the fundamental philosophical aspects of Islamic economics, in which it is possible to deal with difficulties for a successful future.
And according to the language main reading, in Islam it means the word of God revealed by the angel Gabriel into the person of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ibn Abdullah, using Arabic, it has other names that are also called Al-Quran itself, such as Al-Kitab, Al-Furqan. Al-Furqan means the separator between right and wrong. Al-Quran was handed down from one generation to another by way of mutawatir. It was narrated by many people who believe from the beginning continuously until our time. The reduction can be in writing, it can also be verbal. Such a transfer result in a certain knowledge of its truth without any doubt. The Quran, the most fundamental source of Islamic knowledge, must be fundamentally agreed upon by all sources of Islamic law. In Islamic economics, verses that contain descriptions of human nature, especially economic phenomena, and verses concerning group or collectivities can be considered Islamic economic. That's how all the texts that regulate the matter of inheritance, each part has been determined. Also, the punishment has been determined by how light it is. Likewise, the nisab, the amount, has been determined. Second principles that Islamic economy is based on the hadith or al-sunnah of Rasulullah SAW. In the brief history of fiqh given earlier, we observe how the precepts and action of Rasulullah SAW became one of the principles for ascertaining the imperative of Sharia as expressed in fiqh. Al-sunnah, according to Sharia, is something that comes from Rasulullah SAW, which is in the form of words, deeds, and silence. Part of Al-Sunnah describe and interpret general verses of the Quran or relates absolute verses of or specifies general verses. So this interpretation, connection, or specialization better explains and expresses the true meaning of the verse. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has granted His Messenger the power to explain the text of the Quran. The same goes for the legalization of buying and selling and also the prohibition of riba. It is Al-Sunnah that explains what buying and selling are legal and what invalidates it. It is Al-Sunnah that describes the group of usury that are prohibited. Al-Ijma', according to the term of usul, is the agreement of all mujtahid among Muslims at the time after the death of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on a Sharia law regarding a case. As for the worldly, uli al-amri are kings, president, minister, and administrative guardians, while uli al-amri religious are mujtahid and fatwa expert. Even some commentators pioneered by Ibn al-Abbas believe that uli al-amri in this verse means scholar. Other commentators understand it as the people who hold the government and the guardians of the kingdom. According to the appearance, Uli al-Amri here cover both group of leaders of the community. When Uli al-Amri has reached a consensus on the adoption of a certain rule, while they are mujtahid in Islamic law, it is obligatory to follow it and is obligatory to carry out the law. This is also what is meant by the word of Allah Ta'ala. If they return it to the messenger and Uli al-Amri from among them, until those who investigate it can know it directly from them. Al-Qiyas in Arabic means to measure something with its equivalence. The word also refers to equalizations. When the Nas shows the law of a case elite, law is known through some way of identifying elite. Then another case is found that is similar to the first case about elite. Then the law of the second case is the same as the law of the first case. Both are similar about elite. A law exists when there is an elite. For example, buying and selling when the call to prayer for Friday is resounding is a case that has text in the Quran. It is forbidden. The word of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, or you who believe, when the prayer on Friday is called, hurry to the remembrance of Allah and leave buying and selling. It's better for you if you know. The illat of the prohibition is the act can delay the lot. Similarly, wages, mortgages, and every other thing during the sounding of the Friday call to prayer will delay people from performing the Friday prayer. All these actions are alluded to as buying and selling. It is forbidden act.
Next, we will look through Islamic economy philosophy and its evolution. Economic theory is the discipline that analyzes conceptual problems in the economy. In simple terms, economic philosophy relates to theoretical action inside the Islamic framework. The faith of Islam itself, particularly ideologies gleaned and construct from the Quran, is the basis of traditional or initial Islamic philosophy that always returned to adhere to the Quran and Sunnah strictly. Throughout the beginning, Islamic theoretical and practical constituted a cohesive market economy to a framework for the later societal structure where every respondent will be dealt with quite justly. According to Islamic economic ideology, all commercial transactions should abide by every Islamic standard and moral fairness. Trading and business, mainly including buying and selling merchandise and offering in a productive economy. The result of purchase, market or retail has been the comprehensive exchange of title from the seller to the buyer. To prove the revenue, one must exert effort and take a risk. This conforms to the Islamic principles of Al-Gumu bil-Argumi and Al-Haraj bil-Adduman. Eventually, notable theologian Ibn Khaldun dramatically altered the theory of economic principles and connection with Islam, finance and socio-political matters inside NURUL with me. Sharia follows the principles of a solid Islamic notion of currency and wealth, concentrating on the relationship between earning. Islamic notion of this financial model is centered on basic rules such as first, provision of riba, dividend restriction, and second, the practice of zakat, compulsory share of wealth and trades, along with the civic conscience of economic organization and individuals. Al-Ghazali described the restriction of riba al-fat since it violates the purpose of wealth and condemned cash gobbling up, while this obstruct the method and feature of currency as a means of exchange. Islamic-based banking mechanisms are specialized in the abolition of all aspects of repayment and invoice in comparison to the traditional economic system, which is insignificant to societal religious guidelines. The Islamic market, wealth management, and company are inextricably linked to the Quran preventive ethical law.
I will explain some issues that arise within Islamic economics philosophy. The first issue is about Islamic economics that has been prized but also criticized by some observers. The Islamic economy is proud of its development through financial progress. The development attracts more Muslims to use products from Islamic finance and Islamic banking. According to some observers, the Islamic economy has introduced more stable and less risky finance. Although Islamic economics has contributed to a lot development of Islamic finance, there are also issues where it has been criticized by other observers for neglecting its philosophical foundations. It has been going in the wrong direction for years and even decades. This issue has caused both outsiders and Muslims to start doubting it. This happened because of the slight lining of the original method advocated by promoters, which is risk-sharing finance in the favor of fixed markup finance, particularly murabaha, and then by distorting the rules of the fixed markup murabaha, effectively delivering conventional cash following conventional interest rates, but disguised with rules and burdened with higher costs and bigger risks. The second issue is concept of human being. Islamic economics is determined to reduce the imbalanced economic in order to develop in terms of Islamic ethics, awareness of income distribution, and social justice, as well as maintaining individual freedom. According to Islam, human economic existence is to direct what is permitted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the desire to achieve happiness in this world and the hereafter. Humans are caliphs, the true representative of Allah, who needs to achieve the goals of life and the afterlife in order to gain the pleasure of Allah. The next issue is the establishment of ethical and spiritual structure for social justice merely. The establishment of an ethical and spiritual structure aims to balance social justice, where the Islamic economic system is essentially the theme of equal income distribution and social justice. Issues on social justice are often related to racial discrimination, unfair labor practice, age and ethnicity. There are three special elements on the side of Islam to reduce this issue, namely equal distribution of wealth, provision of social security, and protection for the weak. It connects some right for human as human creation. Therefore, in order to achieve economic justice, we must adhere to two key principles, equality and justice.
And I will explain furthermore about the issue within Islamic economic philosophy in the role of the state, where Islam offers a socio-economic reorganization intended to aid in the achievement of desired goals and the reduction of existing imbalance, which could not be achievable without a state that actively participates in the economy. Next is the income distribution and social justice. Based on the income distribution and social justice, as poverty lowers the social standing of our vicegerents, it also makes poor countries more socially problematic due to their inferiority in international affairs. Islamic economic theory holds that poverty is both a social and an intellectual issue. The Islamic approach to eradicating poverty is more comprehensive than the traditional one. It offers the fundamental framework and systematic procedure for sustaining effective microfinance. Next, ownership and property. Islam teaches that the poor have some rights relative to the wealthy. Allah SAW said in the Holy Quran that He is the only owner of all property. According to Islam, ownership is the discussion of a subject genesis. Everything in this world belongs to Allah because it all originates from Him. Islam recognizes the right to the property on a conditional basis in order to harmoniously balance the interests of the public and the private.
The examination came to the conclusion that Islamic's economic theory aims to give people a full and sustainable way of life by enshrining justice and kindness in the core values of society's institutions, which should eventually fulfill Allah's satisfaction. This survey also found that the fundamental focus of Islamic philosophy offers an all-encompassing style of living based on al-adl and al-ihsan. This study's key finding was that the al-adl and al-ihsan may be used to guide socio-economic growth in Islamic economics, which has a solid philosophical foundation. The study came to the further conclusion that al-adl and al-ihsan will be developed when the economic system is driven by not just material consideration but also by Allah's approval and a desire for a pleasant afterlife. This research offered suggestions regarding the fundamental philosophical concerns of Islamic economics, in which it is possible to overcome current difficulties for a great life. Finally, This research concluded that, compared to other Islamic economic disciplines, less research has been done to survey for analysis of the major concerns of Islamic economic philosophy.